Hey everybody, this is Khara CrossFit Brindle. I have my two friends and amazing colleagues with me again today. Want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Liliana Bailan.
And Alex Castro-Croy.
For all of you who've seen our previous videos, we're all about counselor development, growth, possibility. And today we decided we want to talk about some of the roadblocks as well as the success stories. So for those of you who know us, we've been doing this for a while and it's awesome and we love what we do now, but it's not always been hearts and flowers, which is what we talked about offline. So today is about a roadblock. Each of us have at least one that we want to share, and then the hindsight of it actually worked out for the best. So hopefully that helps anyone who's going through a transition feel a little bit more inspired to just go with the flow as much as possible, which is hilarious coming from me as a control freak. I don't go with the flow, but we're going to hear the stories anyway. So who wants to go first with their transitional story and going through a roadblock that actually worked out for the best?
Go ahead, Liliana.
Okay, so I'll start. I have two, but I'm gonna give you one that it was really meaningful for me just because it came full circle, which not all the times we have those experiences. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it out there. So I had just graduated. I was so eager. Everyone told me you're bilingual. Everyone is gonna want you, and I was like, okay, cool. So I go to this place. I went to first interview, second interview, and then they told me, no, thank you. It was a pleasure. And I was like, what? So I was crushed. I took it personal. So because I took it personal and I'm a type A, I sent an email and I said, what can I do better? And they gave me feedback. However, if I would have stayed in that place of, it's me, they don't want me, what else do I need to do? I would have stayed stuck. I would have not gone to private practice. I would not have done everything that I've been forced to do and to learn and to go seek and all these things that we all have to do in private practice. So years later, I actually met the director of that agency and we started talking and he was so nice and he's like, man, I wish we would have someone like you. And I was like, dude, you had the opportunity and you told me no. And it worked out, right? Because of that, I was forced to network. I was forced to take additional classes. The line pretty much that they told me at the beginning was, you don't have enough experience. And in my mind was, how can I get experience if I just graduated? You want me to have something that it's not feasible. You have to give me the opportunity to have this experience in order to give you what you want. And I just wanted them to trust me at that point. And what I realized later is that I didn't even trust myself. I didn't know what I needed to know at that time, yet that roadblock was able force me to think about my fears, think what I wanted to do, and think about pivoting, which is something that not a lot of us think about as soon as we graduate. Right, so I was able to thank him for saying no, and he smiled back at me, which I didn't think that was going to happen. And we had this beautiful conversation, but because of that, and I think I have shared with you guys in prior conversations that I knew I wanted to work with children. So my path was very narrow because of what I wanted to do, and because of that rejection or transformation, we're going to call it transformation, I was able to pivot and go do what I needed to do, which is how I met Khara.
Yes, and at a different agency. Ta-da! Oh, that's our beginning story. I forgot about that.
Story, yes.
Love it. Awesome. Hopefully our viewers are getting inspiration because again, it's not like Liliana knew that was all going to happen as soon as that transformation started. It was probably painful, emotional. A lot of us take on that ownership. So I can definitely relate to your story, Liliana.
Right. And so let me add, when you graduate and then you're like so helpful, as it is, you have these insecurities of, do I know? Do I know enough? Who am I as a therapist? What if, like all those what ifs, right? Like, what if I don't know? What if I cannot hold space for my client? What if I do more harm than good? So I was dealing with all of those and then having rejections from supervisors and agencies telling me, no, like you do take it personal, right?
But not, you're human.
Yeah. And then my ego, you're bilingual. You're going to get so many opportunities. Yeah, not so fast. No, even bilingual people get rejected. I love Alex, like, yes.
Yeah.
Yet, because of that, I met Khara. Khara and I became friends, but she was also my supervisor back then. Like, she guided me through all the nightmares of Medicaid and paperwork.
Uh-huh.
All those things came about. And because of that, I am in the position that I am right now.
Love it. Alex, what about you?
For me is, when I was in the midst of finishing up my master's and getting into, what is it that I really want to do? I was in probation, and I was like, yes, and as a probation officer, I started noticing there was a lot of trauma and addiction that was impacting the families. And my passion has always been youth and families, always has been youth and families. Everybody knows that. And I love working with youth and families. And so as I pursued my exploration of what's going to be next, I applied to be a probation officer for specialized courts. So I applied as a probation officer in Jeffco, in Adams County, in Denver, in Arapahoe County, in Douglas County. I got to the third interview and waitlisted. I was waitlisted in all counties in the Denver metro area. And it's kind of like Liliana said, how can you not take it personal? And I remember when I applied for a position in Adams County, I did the same thing as Liliana's, like, can I get some feedback? Because when I applied for Adams County, I was like, I'm doing something wrong. So I'm doing something wrong. I suck at interviews. You start doing that inner saboteur, judging yourself, like, I suck at this. I'm horrible at this. Something's wrong with me. And finally, a good friend of mine told me, why don't you just email them and ask them, what can I do to do better? And I got the answer. It's like, well, you're a bit overqualified. You were speaking in the interview as a supervisor, and you're overqualified for the position. And so you were good at the interview, but it was just you're too overqualified. And yes, we can work with you, but I'm sitting there. It's like, so I'm being rejected because I'm overqualified. And it's pretty much that was the answer. And so it took me a minute to sit back and be like, this rejection has to be reframed as redirection. This rejection has to be reframed as redirection. And after I realized Jefferson County, Adams County, Denver County, Douglas County, Arapahoe County waitlisted me, it's like, what is, my higher power of the universe trying to let me know? It's time. It's time for me to jump, to pivot, to leave the criminal justice field and do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I heard it from criminal justice. You're overqualified. It's like you're no longer fit in our space. You need to move up and move on. And I got that loud and clear. And so for me to be able to understand that a lot of times, it does come in as, it wants to download and integrate as failure. But we all know Barbara, and Barbara, one of the best things that Barbara gave me is Alex. And it was around that time when I met with her, she said, we don't fail, we just succeed and we learn. And I remember I downloaded that, and I was so grateful with that meeting with her, because she said, and I'm like, what did I learn? That in this career, in this field, when you get roadblocks, when you get rejection, it's just redirection. I can just trust the process and understand that I'm being, again, going back to that funnel, I'm being redirected to where I need to be. And if it wasn't for that, life recovery wouldn't be where it's at. My practice wouldn't be, I would not be sitting here talking, doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for that redirection. And so those roadblocks are actually learning experiences that will shape us to be who we are today. And so when they come, I always go back to Rumi's poem, The Guest House, when it talks about any visitor that comes, any emotion, welcome it. Welcome it, because it's clearing the house for a new unexpected visitor. And it was pretty much each roadblock, each rejection is preparing for what's to come. And so I absolutely embrace it now. And so when I do feel, I mean, there were times, and Khara and Liliana, you both know this, where I'm like stressing out, things are not working, and I'm texting you guys like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And it's great to have somebody to bounce ideas with. I mean, there's this group of core friends and you guys know this, core colleagues, that when we get those roadblocks, we need to bounce back, like, hey, I'm having a roadblock, and being able to have those colleagues and friends that can help hold space for us and help us center sometimes, because it does hurt. We cannot separate that human part of us, that ouch, this is part of being human and learning experience. I mean, we all want A's, but sometimes we get a C, sometimes we get a D, and it's part of being human. We're like, it's not a reflection on who we are. It's just something we have to learn. And there's some growing pains that come in this process, as being in the process of being human and professional. So I would say embrace them for the gift that they have. And it's bittersweet sometimes, but never the end, it's in our best interest.
I need to learn how to do that better or more often. Because I think you both touched on the things that are so hard, of like the human responses. What did I do wrong? Asking for feedback. And I know even now it's hard sometimes to get that feedback. We don't always get the closure on something like that. And so embracing it as a control freak, that's hard for me to do, but I'm going to aspire to do that more based on this conversation, because my story is similar in the sense of rejection turned redirection. I love that, Alex. Because I had been encouraged to apply for a PhD immediately out of undergrad. And one of the reasons I was encouraged to do that is I was working in the psych department. I published a paper at 22, had all these things going on, and they're like, you should be able to do this. So it wasn't even just my ego. It was this encouragement of others, like Liliana, like you said, like, oh, you should just be able to get this, like, no problem. And getting that rejection of like, no, you don't have enough experience. I'm like, okay, well, I wouldn't have known, because I didn't really know what a doctorate would take outside of what I could find on the websites and whatnot. And so went through that rejection to redirection, got into the master's program I did, was able to embrace leadership because it was a nice small cohort all the while, and transformed me into the leader I am today, with just these different nuggets of experience with that. Fast forward to 2019, I got it in my head again, maybe I need to go get a doctorate. Went back to my old alum, because I was like, oh, cool, they have a program, applied, rejected. What? You're my alum. How could you reject me? Like, ego just. And I was like, I asked for feedback. What could I have done better? Well, you don't have enough teaching experience. Now here I am, 2021, teaching at master's level, undergrad level, a couple different institutions over the years. Could potentially pursue it, but now I'm determined to show people you can still achieve what you want without a doctorate. That's how this has evolved for me. Like, okay, I'm not meant to have it. I'm going to try and do everything I want without it, which might sound a little cocky, but I'm determined to at least give it a shot. So rejection to redirection. Maybe it's not just about going to that higher degree. Maybe it's just about the level of experience. And I see you both nodding, so hopefully that resonates too.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Awesome. So if there was one piece of advice we could give our viewers, now that we've given them a little snapshot of some of our transformation, I know we have multiple stories, but we've all picked just one for today. What would be that one little nugget here at the end to tell them to keep going or to hang in there?
I think for me it will be, everything is here to teach you something. You just have to do a step back, as Alex mentioned, in that moment, feel what you need to feel, allow it. I know it's not something that society tells us. It's not something that our family tells us. Our family also never tells us that it's okay to fail. Actually, they try to avoid that for us. And as a mom, I can share with you guys that for my kiddos, I will be like, no, this is the time to fail. Right now, we can afford it. Fail at everything, and then let's discuss what is it that you learn from it, right? So please feel what you need to feel, do a step back, and then either because you go for a walk or you write or, after your dreams, whatever it is, do a step back and then try to figure it out. What is it that I need to learn from this experience? Because everything is here to teach you something. And then pivot as many times as you need to or as you want to. Life is not set just to be one path, smooth path. Actually, it never is. We have these stories of our parents telling us this is the path. And what we're learning, especially after COVID, is that nothing is as simple and as straight. So pivot, laugh, have fun with it, learn, and keep going. Never give up. No matter how many times you fail and you're down, get up and try it again.
Yeah. And I would say that my theme has always been gracefulness leads to gratefulness. In other words, be graceful with yourself when you do get rejected or you get redirected. Be graceful with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Be graceful because and be grateful, because when it does happen, you're going to be thankful it did happen. Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful it happened. Why? Because I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So be graceful when it does come. Be graceful with yourself. Be graceful with the party that rejected you. Be graceful with life, and be graceful with where you're at. You know what? It didn't happen. It's disappointing, and I can be graceful with my disappointment and sit in it and process it, and also be grateful because this is preparing me for where I need to be. So I always use that term of gracefulness leads to gratefulness. So practice that. When it does happen, just be graceful and be grateful for that it happened, because maybe right here, right now, you're not going to understand the reason and the purpose this is happening. But tomorrow, when you get where you're at, kind of like with Liliana, when she looks back and they say, oh, we wish we had someone like you. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. And be grateful, because it's like, okay, this was meant, there was a reason why I didn't have to stay there. And, just to circle back, and this is full circle, now that I'm going to be the keynote speaker at the Probation Judicial Conference in 2021, it's like, now I wanted to share that, because here it is full circle. Yeah. They rejected me back in 2010, 2011. They rejected me and said, no, you're too overqualified. And now they're like, hey, can you be the keynote speaker for 2021 Probation Judicial Conference? It's like, yes. And now I can be graceful and I can be grateful that it happened, because look at where I'm at now. So full circle, here it is.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I think for those doers that are viewing this video, the type A's, the people who plan, I think one of the best tools that was given to me in my own burnout recovery was a tool of mapping out some of our successes and failures, which might feel like a painful process, but really allows that self-reflection and that self-compassion to come up. So the exercise in a nutshell is a timeline. So we could say, okay, our timeline started in grad school or even before that. Whatever timeline of your life you want to focus on, ours specifically was a career focus today, and to map the highs, so those accomplishments, those milestones, and map the lows below this timeline. So it looked kind of like I don't know, like a heart monitor or a map of some kind, but then just have that insight of like, here it is all laid out, where eventually it starts to kind of balance. So it's not just all lows or all highs. There's like that movement, like Liliana, you mentioned, of it's never a straight line. It's never perfect. And I think that for me really helped me take the time and space to do the reflection, to be able to have this conversation with you both of like, what is that transformational moment? Because for a lot of us, we're just like steamrolling ahead, going on with life. We don't make the time to actually slow down and think about this. So if there's one thing I want our viewers to consider is map it out, talk to people about it, do some journaling, whatever it takes to actually take this in, versus just being like, oh, failure, transformation, like really start to feel that in your bones. So I'm hoping that tool can be helpful. Awesome. Any last thoughts from you both as we let people chew on this a little longer?
I think if anything, just again, be mindful that the opportunities will rise and redirections will come. And it's part of our growing process. It's part of our growing process. So embrace it for what it is.
Absolutely.
And I think, as we have discussed before in our group, right, what is meant to be yours will be yours. What is not will be not. So smiling and keep going.
Not giving up. Perfect messages. Well, viewers, I hope this inspires all of you to get through those roadblocks as we have, and just take that with grace, self-compassion, some hindsight down the road to see how this all comes to fruition. And stay tuned for more videos. Thank you both. We'll see you later.